Let me just make a few points because a lot of questions have been asked. But the high water mark of Yucca Mountain is when the law was passed by the United States Congress for a long-term repository. Construction started, but it started the downhill spiral of folks saying no. Even though we did a lot of study of a lot of different sites around the country and ultimately landed on Yucca Mountain as the ideal repository for long-term storage for nuclear waste. And I hear a lot of talk about an interim storage site. Well, I can tell you, nobody wants to be the interim storage site. I think Ms. Korsnick said it best, because they don't believe and trust the federal government will ever get to a long-term repository. Ratepayers in this country were sold a bill of goods. Nuclear waste sits at commercial sites at 121 different locations around the country, on the shores of Lake Erie in Ohio, on the shores of Lake Keowee in South Carolina, on the shores of the Savannah River in Georgia. And we know that nuclear waste, and we've had leaks in Illinois, 6 different sites in Illinois. So the American people and the states don't trust the federal government to ever get to this point. Yucca Mountain was chosen. I've been there. I've stood on top of that mountain, and I said, if we can't put nuclear waste here, we'll never put it anywhere else, because we won't pick another site. There will be too much politics involved. Back when the law was passed, and I use the word law because it's the law of the land to put the nuclear waste from commercial reactors and defense waste at Yucca Mountain. I say that the taxpayer, the ratepayers were sold a bill of goods. I used a number earlier. I misspoke. South County ratepayers have paid $3 billion for the operation and construction of Yucca Mountain. That's $3 billion of not taxpayer money. That's ratepayers in their utility bills, pennies at a time. But South Carolinians have paid $3 billion for this. We've got nothing for it. And I say that no one wants to trust the federal government with regard to doing what they say they're going to do. They brought a bunch of plutonium to the Savannah River site and said, we're going to push for MOX, mixed oxide fuel, and we're going to convert that plutonium from the non-proliferation agreements into usable fuel. Guess what, folks? MOX is mothballed. And that plutonium still sits on a concrete pad in a metal building at the Savannah River site because we're not going to convert it to MOX. That's another example where the federal government has lied to the American people. That plutonium can go to Yucca Mountain as well. I think Ms. Korsnick said we need to be able to access that. As technology gets there, will we reprocess this fuel and reuse it? Absolutely. Yucca Mountain has ingress and egress. So we can take the waste and we can remove the waste to use it. Folks, it's the law of the land. This is time to move forward, and let's let the ratepayers of South Carolina and other states get what they're paying for, what they have paid for.
Nope.
Mr. Chairman, thanks for your leadership on this. I know we had a vote. I yield back. Thanks.